Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending where on Earth you're joining us today for our first ever Earth 300 Impact Talks. This is going to be our first episode, and today we're going to focus on a very special theme dealing with multidisciplinary initiatives and their impact on sustainability and climate change today. We have lined up 21 amazing speakers from you coming from all over the world who will be giving their 3 minutes intervention before I will ask my colleague Sarah Bacon, also from London, to give them targeted questions collected from our audiences. After that, I will be asking our founder and CEO of Earth 300, Alon Olivera, who will give us a historical approach of where we're going in the next decade and what Earth 300 is all about. I'm very delighted to also share that Earth 300, Worldview Impact Foundation and Earth Bank are going to be working together with local communities in the Sundarbans of India to plant 300,000 trees this year with local partners, local donors and local corporates in India to restore the forest of the tide, hence creating a natural defense shield for communities living by the sea in the most high-risk zones of the world, from climate-induced storms and hurricanes and tsunamis and floods, thereby protecting livelihoods of the very poor and the most vulnerable in that part of India and Bangladesh, and also protecting the habitat of the Royal Bengal tiger. We know there are only 3,500 tigers left in the wild, but 300 of them have adapted to the swamps, and they are called the swamp tigers. So I'm very honored to say that we are joining forces with Earth 300 and other partners to restore this very precious ecosystem, which is the largest mangrove forest on our planet. Having said that, I want to thank all our speakers who have contributed their time, their energies, their expertise, and they will be sharing their experiences, but also their challenges and their battle against climate change and addressing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by a target date of 2030. Having said that, again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board to our first episode, and I'm going to give the floor to Alon Olivera. Thank you so much, and have a great conversation.
Hello friends, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the first installment of our Earth 300 Impact Talks. The kind of conversations we'll be having here today online are the kind of conversations that eventually we will be having aboard a 300-meter state-of-the-art exploration, innovation and scientific vessel on its way to Antarctica. Earth 300 was born out of a need to protect our planet, but really, more accurately and more truthfully, it was born out of a need to protect ourselves. Antonio Gutierrez, the United Nations chief, recently stated that we're standing on the verge of climate abyss, with extreme heat poised to cause more death, more destruction and more displacement than all of the wars of history combined. The picture is not pretty. We need change, the monumental kind. We need to inspire an era of ecological imagining. We need to galvanize humanity to take big, bold leaps. We need everybody's help, and that's where multidisciplinarity comes in. Now, Leonardo da Vinci said that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, but really nothing is that simple. In a single atom lies a complex labyrinth of structures and codes that drive and organize the entire universe. When an atom shakes, the whole universe vibrates. So really nothing is independent. Carl Sagan, the famous planetary scientist and cosmologist, quipped that if you want to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe. So multidisciplinarity is into everything that we do. And today you'll hear from an esteemed panel of experts and leaders in their fields of why they believe that holistic thinking and multidisciplinarity is essential in order for us to build a truly sustainable world. Now at Earth 300, this is the ethos that we believe in, and we've been able and privileged to attract an incredible talented pool of individuals. So I'd like to thank our team who form the DNA of our organization, our advisors who are spread all over the world and whose expert insights and faith have allowed us to get this far, our partners who have allowed us to technologically progress in terms of the project and the ship design and all of the technical elements to it, the media, which has been incredibly supportive. We've had articles in over 50 countries, the global population who has reached out to us and whose enthusiasm fuels us for the journey. And finally, I'd like to also thank Sarah Begum, who will be moderating this panel, Bremley Lindo, who's chairing the session, and also Wakas Ahmed, who's our Chief Interdisciplinary Officer, and he will talk about how we need to move from multidisciplinarity to interdisciplinarity, which means that not only do different perspectives need to coexist, at the same time, but also we need to make new creations and new connections and pathways with those different disciplines coming together. As Steve Jobs said, creativity is simply connecting the dots. So I hope that these talks will inspire you to connect your own dots, and we hope to continue to see you in the future, and please join us for the talks and for the quest. Thank you.
Hello and welcome from London, where I am live for the Earth 300 Impact Talks. I'm so excited to be moderating this panel with influential minds around the planet.
Thanks so much for inviting me to the MR300 Impact Talks. Let's be short, let's be direct, let's be concrete. We have been so much impacted by Cartesian thinking. That means that we only focus on one problem at a time and we find one solution at a time. This is what we call linear thinking. I believe that the greatest problem we're facing when we're having climate change, poverty, and the incapacity to meet basic needs of everyone, the basic problem is that we don't see the whole, we don't see the connections, we don't see life as an ecosystem. As long as we do not have a multidisciplinary approach, an approach that allows us to see the interconnections between health and energy, water and food, food and jobs, if we don't see how everything is related, how the web of life has been created and continues to evolve, we will be in a total incapacity to respond to the transformation that is required. We have a problem. We have many problems, but time has arrived to stop talking about the problems. It is time to focus on the solutions. And when our analysis of the problems is focused on one at a time and our solutions are only one at a time, we are never going to get to any real transition. We need the multidisciplinary approach, which I call looking at the web of life. And therefore, we need to have people who are not only the entrepreneurs, or the scientists, or the policymakers, or the public at large, or the activists. We need all together in a web of life. And this web of life requires us to look at initiatives and actions whereby we see that not only everything is related, but the impact will have a multiplier effect. If you're only looking at cause and effect, you can very clearly calculate the impact of the causes, the impact of the effects you want to achieve, because you control the environment. But hard reality is that we do not control the environment, and therefore we have to simulate in a system how everything will have feedback loops. And when you have feedback loops, you will have multiple effects that you could not foresee, but you can simulate them. And therefore, the MR300 is an initiative that allows us to pull together and the policymaking and the science and the entrepreneurship and the action on the ground, because we do not need further discussions about philosophy. We need to have a focus on how to pass from talking to acting. And that acting needs to be an integrated, multidisciplinary, multifaceted action. Those initiatives can be concentrated on a very focal point. And a ship is probably one of the best utensils that we have. Yes, I call it a utensil, because you can simulate on a ship everything that you can have on an island. And an island is everything that you can simulate having on a piece of land. And the land you can imagine on the Earth. We have been calling our Earth Spaceship Earth. So the only way to move forward now is to get into action, to pass from a proof of concept to a proof of operation. And then we have to have the willingness and the capacity to roll it out and cover the world with this transition that will only be happening if we consider this the web of life. And our role is not to change life. Our role is to put nature back on its evolutionary path and ensure that when she is back on her evolutionary path, we will be in the capacity to play our modest role by creating the tensions and by creating the small triggers so that the whole system will move towards health and happiness. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Martin Yates. I'm a smart cities architect and technology futurist working for Dell Technologies based here in Singapore. It's also my pleasure to be a team member of the supporting advisors for the Earth 300 project. I would like to take the next few minutes to cover the immense impact of hyper-accelerating technologies in our time and what that means to us all on that sustainability journey that we all need to take. We are rapidly rushing forward to a connected, intelligent world. 5G technologies are being deployed as we speak, while 6G is already now firmly in the planning of many. Along with artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, the neural network developments of the world are truly taking us to new levels of an unprecedented change. All of the physical aspects of our world reality are becoming instrumented, connected, and digitalized, which will have a profound impact on the future. These technologies and how they're being blended in synchronous harmony are becoming the big game changers, creating a modern inflection point of our time. There are no U-turns here or ways back as humanity leaps into the next evolution of its destiny. And this is all powered by global knowledge derived from an exponential growth in data. But first, what do we really mean by exponential growth in data? The telecoms industry is a good case in point. For example, in 2007, the entire cellular network of the United States just consisted of 86 petabytes of data. But today, 86 petabytes move across the cellular network in just 18 hours. And in just 10 years from now, 86 petabytes will move across the cellular network in just 10 minutes. As we see, the human milestones of history will be built from capturing, processing, analyzing this data to deliver a vast diversity of universal outcomes for all. For pioneering projects such as Earth 300, this will be a new genesis of exploration in the making. The knowledge this vessel will acquire in exploration over all of its multidisciplinary functions overshadows all that came before it. On Earth 300, thousands of onboard IoT sensors that make up this living, breathing, and learning fabric shall feed the most powerful computers of our time, including the latest quantum computers, in particular transforming the vast reserves of data collected and processed into timely, actionable solutions, supporting our planetary ecosystem. Now is the time to architect and craft a catalyst for change beyond the imagination of many, to excel and push the boundaries of our understanding in a world full of uncertainties. It's time to take back our strength and rise up to protect the only planet that we have that we call home. Thank you very much and have a great day ahead.
Hello, my name is Judith Cunningham, and I am the founder of Youth for a Better World. We are an NGO in special consultative status with the United Nations ECOSOC. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the forgotten citizens, those young people across the world under 18, whose dreams of the future we are destroying. My message at this Earth 300 Impact Talks is that youth engagement is critical to address the climate crisis and create sustainability. We see the impact this Greta generation has had and how they inspire and activate adults to confront the climate crisis. Youth know they are the real stakeholders of the future, and that to protect that future, they must participate at the present. We just held the first International Youth Climate Summit this past week. This virtual gathering came at a pivotal moment of record number of storms, hottest temperatures on record, and severe droughts. Students gathered online from Africa, Europe, United States, Canada, Mexico, China, and the Philippines. Some as young as 12 came to the summit with open minds and hearts to learn and to take action to help combat the climate crisis. Our mission was to share the science and facts about global warming, to help the students understand the impact of climate change, to learn solutions already in place, and for most importantly, to understand how climate awareness and activism is being led by youth. And then, of course, to provide the tools for them to be a valuable part of this movement. Understanding the science and the facts provided a critical foundation, but equally important was for the participants to share their thoughts and feelings about the climate crisis. They shared in small discussion groups their hopes, their dreams, and their fears. And after they felt a sense of efficacy, that they were now empowered to make change. The summit concluded with a call to action. Students are creating individual video pledges that will be joined into a video youth mandate to be shared with the United Nations prior to COP26, so that world leaders can hear the voice of students committed to making a difference in their communities. That's my message for this Earth 300 Impacts talk, that youth must have a seat at the table. They are the real stakeholders of the future, and to protect that future, they must participate now. See you on the 17th.
My name is Michele Sofisti. I'm a former geologist who has spent the majority of his professional life as a CEO in the luxury brands sector. Thanks to that, I got the possibility to work in a very multidisciplinary world. Grammy Awards for Music, Los Angeles Movie Oscar and Cinecittà, 4 Olympics, fashion industry. That's why I'm a true believer of the positive impact that a multidisciplinary approach can bring to environmental issues and business. I've always been passionate about the nature and a lover of nature. Maybe because I was born in a tiny village in the Italian Alps, today a very famous ski resort, Bormio. Since few years, I'm dedicating my time, knowledge, and network to help organizations to protect biodiversity and mitigate climate change. My call today, thanks to the important Earth 300 project, is to join forces between the organization rich in knowledge, expertise, and passion, and the private sector to push towards the many solutions available today to protect the life on our planet. Together, we can create the positive results of a long-term sustainable change, able to bring world economies into new scenario where profit and sustainability goes together. Solutions are available, and a continuous long-term investment from the private sector can bring these solutions into action. Spin Ventures, with the platform WOW, Western Wonder, partner in Earth 300, offers the expertise in circular economy and the platform to reduce the impact of plastic, reducing at the same time the impact of CO2 in the atmosphere. Music and sport entertainment, plastic-free, is possible and real. New items, well-designed and with impeccable quality from new raw materials, can be very attractive and be sold to consumers, helping the environment and bringing low impact. Resolve.ngo is over 40 years a solid organization based in Washington, D.C. It has the solution to produce a sustainable and natural respective way critical minerals, which are essential for the renewable energy and for the electric cars, as well as gold and diamond, traceable and sustainable, or zero or low impact. Together with Intel, Resolve has created a world-unique micro camera called the TriGuard Wild Eyes, equipped with artificial intelligence, which is the long-awaited technological solution to help to protect the biodiversity and mitigate climate change. In fact, the same system can help in avoiding the poaching of wildlife, protecting the forest, avoiding the conflict between predators or herbivores and livestock, and at the same time protect against wildfires. Basically, one system for so many issues. The above cases, from the WOW platform to Resolve TriGuard, show clearly that any industry in the private sector can become a true champion in marrying their business activity and the urgent need of a change towards sustainability. Private sector brands have an incredible marketing communication capacity to sell anything and any product. It's time to address this scale towards causes of vital importance and inspire the world.
In today's world, faced with existential problems like climate change, like biodiversity loss, it is really important to adopt an approach that ensures holism and multidisciplinarity. Over the past 4 decades, we've witnessed a lot of environmental challenges, starting with acid rain, air pollution, species extinctions, biodiversity loss, climate change, and most recently COVID-19. And we've dealt with them in a very siloed fashion, where we considered each to be its own problem, rather than symptoms of an underlying bigger problem, which is our relationship with nature. In addition, we've had phases of awareness, where in the beginning, for climate change and biodiversity, for example, we considered them to be environmental problems and dealt with them that way. After that, a second phase saw them appearing as developmental problems with links to the MDGs and the SDGs. Finally, we are now aware, with the latest scientific information, these are existential problems with the potential to challenge our ability to remain on Earth with the type of environment that we have, which we are rendering unhospitable. And as such, we need to transform our worldview, and we need to transform our thinking on how we approach such a problem. It's no longer a matter of plugging holes, it's a matter of dealing with a paradigm shift. And this paradigm shift of worldview has to really be based on 3 different elements. Number 1 is a very clear understanding and extension of indigenous values in how we approach the surrounding environment. Indigenous peoples have had harmony with nature over the past centuries and millennia, and have perfected the type of engagement in terms of living with nature, in terms of nourishing nature, rather than just extracting from it. Second, we have to be very cognizant of frontier technologies and the opportunities that they provide, and our need for foresight thinking in looking at the future, not as the present plus a climate signal, for example, but rather as a very different world transformed by technology, and how can we really use these frontier technologies for the benefit of humanity. And third, to dispense with yesterday's methods of dealing with these existential problems. For example, we do not need to make a business case for saving humanity, as if humanity was only worth saving if someone makes a profit. Number 2, such concepts as the time value of money, discount rates in cost-benefit analysis, for example, they make it seem like future losses are far less impactful than current gains, and so essentially going against intergenerational equity. So with this change in mindset, with this change in worldview, we would be looking at a future where we have restored our relationship with nature to one that is regenerative rather than extractive, and we would achieve, finally, a situation of permanent resilience for humanity. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, it's great to be part of this Earth 300 initiative. I'm Rishabh Khanna, and I work with Earth Bank as a co-founder and the Chief Impact Officer. I'm many things, actually. I'm a father of a 4-year-old son. I also work as a development economist, a mindfulness instructor, so we believe a lot in yoga, spirituality, breathing, pranayama, and I use all these different tools, especially spirituality, breathing, pranayama, to connect our inner climate and the work we have to do with the outer climate. What I find is so fascinating that we often get stuck with one aspect of life or one speciality, but I think we need all our skills, we need all our creativity to address the climate issue. I also sing in a choir called Voices Without Borders, and we were actively supporting Greta in her movement in Stockholm, and we were here addressing the politicians with the climate strike. So yes, I also believe in the power of music and the power of music to move people's hearts, especially singing in a choir with 200 people. That was really awesome. So at Earth Bank, what we are really doing is trying to address this major issue of investing into the last mile of climate finance, and particularly making it possible to invest in nature-based solutions. We use this satellite AI technology to measure and monitor forest carbon, soil carbon, and that makes it possible for companies to invest in nature-based solutions. But it also can incentivize 500 million small-scale farmers who cannot afford the normal verification, and they now can get paid for carbon, which they never got paid for before. So that what Earth Bank is essentially doing is using the satellite AI technology to incentivize small-scale landowners who can now get paid for the carbon income. You can also join us. You can be part of this great movement, and we are looking forward to work together with Earth 300 and all your corporate partners to work with us to plant 300,000 mangrove trees at the Earth 300 Tiger Climate Park in the Sundarbans. It's a very special place. I've been there many times, and I will be going there again this summer to plant trees in the memory of my grandma, who lost her life due to COVID, and many others who lost their lives due to COVID. These mangroves will also be, of course, monitored by our satellite AI technology, together with people on the ground who will get paid to look after these trees, who will be employed to do this, but also who are going to enjoy the shelter that these trees provide against fierce hurricanes and storms. So looking forward to be part of this event with you at Earth 300, and looking forward together working with you to scale climate impact.
Hello everybody, I'm Giulio Ceppi, I'm an architect and designer. I'm talking to you from Milan, from the brand new design museum in Milan. And this is just to explain you how in Italian design, interdisciplinary, it's such an important issue, especially if you are talking about sustainability, because for us, there is no distinction between different scale. So a spoon, a city, a car, a boat, it's always part of the same design. And this is exactly the same kind of approach that you need when you talk about sustainability, because sustainability is taking in account, it means different levels, different contribution, different perception, different scale. Sustainability is about lifestyle and is about life cycle. So it's about life. And I believe in this place where I'm one of the three curators, you can understand how it's important to look things from very close as well from far away. And in order to do this, you always have to share your expertise with other people that have knowledge and expertise, a different approach, complementary to yours. And to us, the designer is much more similar to a director, a person that has to keep all this complexity together and try to draw a line and to give a direction in order that you can move, being green, being careful to people, and being open to innovation. And this is part of our DNA, this is part of our history, but it is also something that we want to continue. And that's the reason why for us it's such important to be in contact with different culture, with different know-hows, with different disciplines, because this is a way to nurture creativity and to keep innovation alive and close to people at the same time. So thanks to Earth 300 for this opportunity, because I believe to have something open to different knowledge and disciplines floating on the ocean and looking at the sustainability of our planet, it's really a big issue and a very important challenge. See you soon.
Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan from the Singapore Space and Technology Limited, Asia's leading space organization, and we cover everything to do with space, from communications, remote sensing, satellite technology, and all the various applications that are useful and impactful to mankind. Space has a very major role in supporting sustainability. Let me name a few examples. Climate change is a hot topic, is an issue that space and satellite technology is used to tackle. Satellite technology today is used to support education efforts, scientific research, and many supporting applications to study and delve into different ways to combat and find solutions to the various climate change issues that plague mankind. Satellite technology has advanced to encompass many different sensors that can pick up different chemical compositions in the atmosphere, allowing us to be more accurate in predicting weather. Extreme weather has been quite a major cause of concern, especially with global warming cases, greenhouse effects, and other increase in noxious gases because of the temperature variations across the globe. Satellite technology also today supports different ways to mitigate disasters that come about because of climate change. We cannot solve everything at one go. We can certainly be more proactive instead of reacting to different catastrophic incidents around the world. Take, for example, how today's satellites are able to provide more accurate mapping, remote sensing, and different environments. In the past, these could be done sporadically, and again, because technology was not as matured as it is today. With the advent and democratization of small satellites, we are able to now conduct faster, quicker, and more responsive studies and responses, providing useful data to our first responders on the ground that allows us to mitigate and solve different disaster and crisis situations quicker and save potentially more lives. In this current COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of discussion surrounds food security and food resiliency. Today, there are many countries, many economies today that suffer because of a lack of access to food, and also because with the current restrictions, border restrictions around the world, many have also gone without access for some time. With remote monitoring capabilities brought about by better equipped satellites, we are able to better monitor crops, provide for more even distribution, and provide new solutions for farming technologies around the world. One example is vertical farming, which was born out of the space program. In space, new technologies needed to be enhanced because of the lack of resources that we have on board pressurized vessels, for example, at the space station. We translated these technologies terrestrially, and we diffuse all the learnings on the ground so that today we have farmers that are able to use more advanced technology to study crop management to allow for more efficient growing of crops. This allows for a higher crop yield, allowing more people to have access to food and take us forward in this pandemic. In summary, today with all these capabilities and information, useful information at our fingertips, there's a lot that has been done in the fight towards sustainability, connectivity, enabling us to have a secure future. The Singapore Space and Technology Limited, or SSTL, is proud and very proud to work alongside Earth 300 and their team for a more secure and sustainable future. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank our policymakers and practitioners who made their last intervention in this last round. I'm quite happy that Rishabh is actually now in India. He's going to go to the mangrove project site in the Sundarbans to plant mangrove trees to honor his grandmother, who he lost from COVID-19. Thank you for doing that, Rishabh. And I'm also very happy that the entire Earth 300 team is going to engage with the local people of the Sundarbans and plant 300,000 trees starting this year. So salute to the entire team at Earth 300. Having said that, this is a very important round of policymakers and practitioners. We want to have something concrete that comes out from our talks, especially as we enter this UN decade on ecosystem restoration. And I'd like to pass over the mic to Sarah Begum to ask the targeted questions from the audience. Thank you. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Bramley. So I received this amazing question from the audience for Aaron. Aaron, how will the various infrastructure investment by governments affect this initiative? Any assist seem possible?
Thanks, Sarah. Nice to be here. Yeah, so look, I think the future of our world is going to depend very largely on public-private partnerships. You know, we need a new paradigm of public-private partnerships where governments are working together with private industry in order to shift to a smart ecological infrastructure. So I think in terms of our project Earth 300, the idea of investing in educational facility and schools in rural communities and areas which traditionally don't have the same access to information, that would be the first step, you know, educational facilities, educational infrastructure. And then in general, just, you know, the governments globally being much more supportive when it comes to supporting green initiatives and transitioning, you know, to a post-ecological, post-carbon ecological society. So that's what I would say. I mean, moving forward, we need a new model for public-private partnerships and more nimble. You know, I mean, if we are going to avert extreme levels of warming, we need to move much quicker. So perhaps less bureaucracy and more action. That's what I would say.
Amazing. I love action, all about action. Thank you so much, Aaron. Over to Martin Yates. Hi, Martin. Welcome to the panel.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
How's it going?
Amazing. Great. So you talk about the hyper-accelerating technologies of our time. It would seem that innovation could be measured on a logarithmic scale, the pace constantly quickening. So what are the technologies that you think will be most relevant to Earth 300's mission?
Okay. Well, actually, you know, probably most of the emerging technologies we see today will be absolutely core to Earth 300. And at the very center of that will be the artificial intelligence and machine learning systems, because that's where we're really, you know, taking these vast amounts of data that we're collecting, you know, from the environment, from science, from academy, from the vessel itself that's collecting in that environment, making sense, applying the right algorithm, and delivering the right solutions to the problems that we're seeing. And so artificial intelligence, you know, as you see for all things in this world, is really delivering outcomes that just simply weren't possible before. And that means a tremendous amount. You know, when we can model what the Earth is doing, when we can model what the oceans are doing, we have a much better chance of making and doing the right decisions at the right time.
Amazing. And all the physical elements of our world are becoming instrumented, collected, and digitized. So how they are blended together is the next big game changer. And as you pointed out, there's no turning back. But what are the technologies that should give us pause?
Okay, I think in terms of pause for thought in that sense is like, you know, what the technology we have, the data we have, how can we assemble that in a much better way? And one of the key ways that you'll see with Earth 300 is very much using what we call the digital twin model. That is, take everything we know in the physical world that we need to understand, evaluate, build this into a software model so that we can build more energy efficient systems, more efficient, more climate friendly systems. So the full replication of digital twins for the whole environment, physical environment, and in fact for the whole world itself, because the whole world itself can be represented as a model that we can understand and make better decisions based on that digital twin model through simulations and taking in real-time data. So that's absolutely, for me, one of the most amazing things that we can be doing right now for the whole world and the data that we need to collect and analyze against that.
I think that's amazing. Thank you so much, Martin. Moving on to Yusuf Nassef. Hi, Yusuf. Hello.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, Singapore.
Good morning. So, Yusuf, you speak about the indigenous peoples and getting inspiration from them to provide solutions. Indigenous values and how we around an environment would seem to be at odds with the technological revolution or frontier technologies that you speak of. So, how do they realistically work together? Aren't they in many ways at odds with each other?
Yes. Well, I think it's really important to look at how are we regulating the evolution of technology as we move forward. So unregulated, yes, we're very excited about, you mentioned the data is being instrumented, collected, and digitized. But what is the motivation that determines the coverage of that, and who accesses it and who owns it? And so in ensuring the evolution of the benefits from frontier technologies, we have to ask ourselves, is it leading to more equity or more inequity? So you come to 2030 and we have achieved the SDGs. Will we have a new set of goals that would respond to the way we have allowed the technology to evolve? So going back to indigenous peoples, I mean, three very important principles that could serve as goalposts for us as we try to modernize further. One is connectivity, the second is collectivity, and the third is intergenerational equity. So how can we use these to guide the transformation, the technological transformation, and the social and political transformation as we move forward towards a world that ensures the connectivity between humans and nature? We move from that extractive relationship to a more regenerative one, and how to consider humanity as one, not as little pockets, some who can pay for the data and for the benefits and for the processing of it, versus others that cannot. And then finally, intergenerational equity. I mentioned in my talk some of the fallacies in our current educational systems that automatically discount future well-being in favor of current well-being. And we learned that from indigenous peoples, where the well-being of 7 generations ahead is given the same priority as today's well-being. So as we move forward with this technological transformation, I think there's a lot to learn from indigenous values. So not necessarily focusing on practices or knowledge, but rather the underlying values that underpin these practices and knowledge, and see how we can modernize towards them. Because some people look at indigenous values as something in the past, traditional, but in fact, I see this as a directional sentinel, basically something to move towards, rather than saying we benefit from the past, because we're not there. I mean, the current socioeconomic systems have been around for 200 years. They haven't really got us where we need to be in terms of sustainability. And the values of indigenous peoples, the practices, the knowledge, the wisdom has been there for centuries and millennia, and has managed to reach that harmony with nature, understanding that connection. So thinking of the evolution of technology beyond the bottom line, beyond the endless pursuit of innovation for the sake of innovation, but rather for the sake of the collective well-being of the world. I think these are values that we can learn a lot from indigenous peoples.
No, I completely agree. Having lived with indigenous peoples myself, I just find they live in harmony and in synchrony with nature. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Giulio Seppi, are you online?
Yes, I'm here. Nice to see
Hi,
you.
Giulio. Nice to see you too. You talk about the interdisciplinary aspects of Italian design, but isn't the fact that Italian design is so Italian the very thing that gives it its strength, its power, and its memorability?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll say Italian design is not only Italian. I believe we have been lucky to be, since the Renaissance time, a kind of culture and people open to any kind of contamination, exchange. Italian architects and designers have been traveling and designing building and things all over the world. And that's part of our heritage and our history. And we have learned a lot, and we have understood how it's important. Never try to intellectually colonize anybody, but always learn from other people and use this into your creative process. And in sustainability, if we want to talk about sustainability now, this is a worldwide rule and a very spread approach. And I believe that the lesson of Italian design that is not Italian anymore is worldwide spread. So because it's not the boundaries of a nation today something meaningful to me, because design is about processes, design is about curiosity, is about connecting people, is about improving our reality in something better. And to do this, you need to exchange, you need to collaborate, you need to partner, and you need to understand the differences in looking at reality and having different needs and desire, because we don't just talk about needs today. We also talk a lot about desire, and sometimes we have so many desires that we believe those are the needs.
but it's not obviously the same.
That's our preference.
Exactly. So
it's all the choice.
Absolutely. So to be, let's say, horizontal in design is very important, no? And we need horizontal places like Earth 300 that is a platform. It's a place of exchange. It's a place of connection, physical, but also, let's say, mental and cultural. And this is fundamental for design because you can't, we have to cancel the idea that creative people are people staying in a high tower and having ideas under the shower. No, that's totally.
I have so many ideas under the shower. I'm not sure about you.
No, it could happen. It could happen.
I think everyone.
Sometimes also in other places, but you can't do anything alone. I mean, you need connection and sustainability more than everything. I mean, it's a life cycle that you have to understand. Are different languages that you need to talk because you need to talk with the people understanding chemistry or people understanding industrial processes or speaking about packaging. I don't know. You have so many issues to bring together. And this is the challenge of the future. So to keep your own understanding and vision, but realizing it through connections and exchange with other people and knowledge. No, it is about sharing. If you don't share, there will be no sustainability. That's for sure.
And maybe you need to design the perfect mindset and share that with everyone.
Yes, this is also something we have to do in a collective way. But
you are an architect. You are the designer. That's why you're here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that video. Moving on to Rishabh Khanna. Rishabh, how are you? Rishabh? Oh, he's not here? Hello?
Hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello,
okay,
Rishabh.
Great.
How are you? Oh, wow, you have a...
I'm good. I'm in India right now, and it's a bit... You might hear some background music. Because I'm with my family and just spending time with my granddad. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Well, I was hoping you'd say that I'd hear some tigers in the background. I was hoping that you were already in the Cinderbruns, but so tell me.
Not yet. On my way.
Okay, right. Well, you've been there before. So, what is it like being in the depths of the Cinderbruns, and why is this part of the world so special and so important for our overall mission? And how is Earth Bank using satellite data to monitor the population of mangrove trees that it's planting?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question, and I have been reflecting on it for the last 10 years when I visited it for the first time. And you might have read The Hungry Tide by Amitav Ghosh, and there's a lot of other really fascinating literature, also ancient literature about this special ecosystem. I mean, when I first went there almost 10 years back, I think it was the combination of the fact that you have this one place with the beautiful forests, the trees, the wild tigers, the Royal Bengal tigers.
Have you been up close to a tiger?
And I don't dare, to be honest.
Really? I would dare. Go on.
Yeah, maybe Sarah, you need to guide me right up.
Yeah, I will. I speak to tigers. Anyway.
Yeah, but there is. I mean, nature has it all, right? And so the universe, or the God, or the nature, it's created for us to enjoy and to look. And I think what we're doing with the satellite technology is once again seeing in a deeper way. And it's a more advanced way of having a mirror back on Earth. It's like, look, this is the planet. This is life. This is probably the only planet we know which has life. And here in the Cinderbruns, there is magic of different species, the mangroves, which are not only sequestering carbon, but filtering the water, providing the necessary nutrition for the fish, the corals, the seagrass. And sometimes we forget all that we have all around us. And it's so easy for us to just chop up the tree because, we need that wood for fuel our house, or, build the house or build the ship. And of course, the value of a dead tree today is far more than a living tree. And what we're doing with Earth Bank is helping communities realize that actually you can get paid as much to keep this tree, to protect this ecosystem, than by cutting it. And I think that's the transition, that's the equitable transition we all need to think about, because the transition will hurt the poor the most. These people who are at the front line, right at the Sundarbans, facing the cyclones year on year, these people are the ones who need more help and more support than we sitting in air-conditioned homes.
Can you explain very quickly how planting mangrove trees will curb climate change? How can we understand that?
Yeah, so when we started to work on this, and of course Bremley has been doing this for quite some time, he's a great mentor and guide. We have already destroyed almost 40% of mangrove ecosystems all over the world. And mangroves are actually 5 times, some people say 10 times more efficient than the Amazon rainforest to sequester carbon. So they are, first of all, sequestering all that carbon for us, but they're also the keystone species to provide the nutrition to the seagrass that would give the life to the corals, to the fish, as well as preventing soil erosion. And on top of all of that, building this bioshield against all these massive hurricanes and storms that hit the coast. So they have massive adaptation and mitigation benefits.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Richard. And I hope you have a wonderful time in the Sundarbans. Say hello to the tigers for me. Thank you everyone for the last session. It's been amazing hearing from you all. And I hope to see measurable action that we can give birth to from this session. Over to Bromley.
Yeah, Judith, are you here? Can you hear us, Judith?
Loud
Yeah,
and clear.
so I'd like to welcome Judith. She came in the last minute, but Judith is leading a whole group of thousands of young people from the Montessori Model UN. I've been working with her at the UN since 2008. And Judith, tell us, what are you doing to inspire these young people through Montessori Model UN, early childhood education, how that's very important to train a whole new generation of young citizens to respond to this climate crisis or emergency and act upon what their grandparents probably didn't do much. So what would you tell them? What would you tell to your grandchildren?
Well, I would like to start by saying it's not that I have to do anything to them or to train them. The children are already aware of what's happening in the world. What we provide is a platform where we can provide training in understanding the science behind climate change and a sense of empowerment, because students, particularly adolescents, have a native sense of efficacy and idealism. They want to make change. They see that this is their future. And so for us, it's really more about engaging them, and particularly doing that in an international way so that students across the globe can learn from one another, can see that climate change is happening not only in their community, but in every community in the world. And it creates a sense of solidarity among young people, a sense that they can make a contribution. At our last climate summit 2 weeks ago, the students are all creating video pledges that we're going to link together as a mandate, a video mandate to the United Nations and world leaders before COP to know what the youth are doing, what they're thinking, and the sense of responsibility that we're all in this together to make a difference. I would also like to add that hearing all of the speakers reminded me how important it is for these ideas to be translated into educational opportunities for young people. So from design to planting mangroves to understanding the impact of the entire ecological system once mangrove trees are introduced is really critical for the education of young people. And really, climate science should be at the heart of what every student is engaged in school and practices, sustainability practices throughout their whole school. That in order for change to really happen, it needs to be embraced by all of us, but it really starts in schools. And the values that were discussed about Indigenous people, how wonderful would that be if young children grew up knowing what those values were and those practices. So I would welcome all of our speakers to consider how they can get involved in translating their message into an educational format. Because really, the people who are going to be making the big difference are the youth.
Thank you so much, Judith. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've heard from our thinkers and theorists in the first round. We've heard from our artists and activists during our second round. And this is our last round. We've just heard from our practitioners and policymakers. But we don't want this to just end up as another talk show. We wanted to go beyond the podium, you know, to really engage in this UN decade on ecosystem restoration. So I'd like to open up for a little discussion to see what we will personally commit to do in these next 10 years, in this important decade. I think this is the last decade for us as a human race to take action to stop runaway climate change. I don't know whether it's too late or we still have time, but also to share expertise of how we can collaborate beyond this first episode of the Earth 300. We've created this forum for all of us to work together collaboratively. But it'd be interesting to hear what you guys think we can join hands, join forces together to move forward. I'd like to ask Sandra to tell us more what you've been working on with the cities, because you know, buildings are the ones that produce more than 50% of the emissions on the planet. But you've been working with Habitat to look at sustainable cities and also with the Resilience Frontiers. So how are you going to, you know, bring all these together?
So what I wanted to say about cities, and I'm really honored to be here, and also seeing Dr. Joseph Nassif, who founded Resilience Frontiers Initiative and the UNFCCC to find different paradigms. We are really thinking about territorial integration. And I would like to bring the context of geography to the discourse, because I think it's very important where we are. We just spoke about Asia and other parts of the planet. So right now, the discourse is on integrating territories together, so cities, rural areas, forests, and spaces in between cities, looking at regional developments as a whole. And I think that will help us to ultimate issue of understanding. There was a lot of discussion today about understanding of nature, understanding of each other, indigenous knowledge. We had an intervention from the world expert on Leonardo da Vinci that spent time in understanding nature. So I think that looking at scales of bioregional scale and integrative thinking and then implementing that at that scale will help us tremendously.
Excellent. Yusuf, would you like to add something on that, on what you're working on at the UN?
Yes, well, what I would add, Brandy, is perhaps a different perspective. I mean, we heard earlier about Kennedy's moonshot, where he decided that we go to the moon and certain technologies came into being. But I think where we are now is at a place where we need to engineer a change in mindset. There's no new technologies needed to reach that state of global well-being. And so with Resilience Frontiers and with the other initiative as what you are doing, we have to start thinking of moving away from incremental and even systemic change to paradigmatic change. We have to look at look at beyond the SDGs. What is that situation of the world that we want to reach? Even if we achieve the 17 SDGs, what will be next? How to use frontier technologies towards that end. Instead of anticipating the future and trying to adapt to it, know that the future is designed by us. It is a function of what is done by humans between now and then. So that major paradigm shift in mindset and in worldview, and as I said, a lot of it will be aided by values from indigenous peoples. This is what we should concentrate on in educational curricula, in our awareness raising efforts. And so once we've aligned all those dipole moments like in a magnet, you'll find that these 7.7 billion people that were mentioned earlier can be that engine for transformation to that well-being. And we need to stop seeing climate change as its own little problem, siloed, and biodiversity loss as a problem. Just see them as symptoms of another underlying problem. And that problem requires a massive redesign of mindset and of approaches and of paradigm. So that's what I'm hoping for. And we need to invest a lot in changing these mindsets and worldviews.
Excellent. I think we ran out of time, but to end, as I started earlier, quoting Gandhi, that we need to be the change that we want to see in the world. So I'd like to just invite each one of you with just one sentence of what your commitment is personally for this decade, for the planet, and for the young people to say, all generations to come. So just one line each, and then we'll close there, and we'd love to engage with you as we produce the next newsletters and give you updates when Rishabh is in the field planting his mangrove trees. So maybe you can all join forces in this decade of ecosystem restoration. So who wants to go first with their commitment for this decade?
I can go first if you want.
Yes, please.
I believe to us it's very important to show that between natural and artificial there is no difference anymore. That if we want to have a better planet, what is artificial today should act as it was natural in order to have life cycle and life everywhere. Otherwise, we will not succeed in fighting climate change and have a better planet.
Excellent. Words of wisdom. Thank you so much. Who's next?
I can follow.
Okay.
I mean, I can see there is no us and them. It is a collective, the whole of humanity. There's no individual, community, national, regional. It is one globe, and we have to start seeing humanity as one, not just as one, but as one with the natural support system.
Excellent. Judith, you want to add on?
Yes, I would like to particularly add on to what Joseph has just said, and that includes young people, that we need to have youth at the table when these decisions are being made, because they do see the interconnectivity of life and the oneness and the inequality that has been built. And so their voice needs to be heard. And that's my commitment, to provide
Thank
that
you.
platform for young people.
Jasmine, you're still there with us? You want to give us your words of advice or commitment? Or Rishabh, I think you're going to be taking some action next week. So what is your commitment for this decade?
Action of planting the trees now, and hopefully the next 10 years might maybe 1 billion or more trees, Bramley. I think that as a young person 10 years back, joining 350.org, my dream is that we have the right data which helps us to get the decisions, to scale up action, to get us back to 350 parts per million. And that is the tipping point which we should have never crossed, and we need to go back in the next 10 years.
Excellent. Sandra, any closing remarks?
What an honor. I think I commit to experimentation in the next 10 years of bringing unexpected ideas, people, disciplines together to come up with more sustainable solutions for the future.
Excellent. What about Sarah? Because she's also very interested in the tigers. What's your commitment for this decade?
Me?
Yes. You've been asking us all the questions. What about you?
Well, I've been devoting a lot of my missions to helping humanity, and since understanding how data from space and satellites help us understand the climate and how things are changing, how the Earth is deteriorating in different parts of the world, I realized that we can use this data to prepare those solutions that we need on the planet. So I'm focused on space and sustainability and being that bridge between the Earth and space, exploring the Earth and one day exploring the stars whilst making a difference on the planet. And I think it's really important to understand how in space we develop a lot of innovative technologies which we then use on Earth. So for example, the GPS, our mobile phones, smartphones, all of that was developed in the space industry. And we utilize it now, and it's made our lives easier and better and more efficient. And space is going to become $1 trillion industry very soon. It's moving, growing at an exponential rate. So I think if we can work collaboratively with the space industry, with space companies, we can see a huge difference. A lot of people don't realize how wherever they work, whichever industry they work, they are impacted by space technology or the space industry somehow. And yeah, so I would like to see that connection, that bridge being made so that we can create the solutions that we need much faster, much quicker. And I'm going to be a part of that. So. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, like I said, I want to leave this on an action front because we've all taken time to share our expertise, our experience. There's so much of knowledge and tremendous energy in this group. And it would be a shame if we can't transmit our combined energy into something really big that makes a huge impact for the entire planet. So having said that, I'm really honored to be collaborating with all of you on this new Earth 300 platform, and also giving out energy to Rishabh as he pays respects to his grandmother who's left this planet for the stars. I will also be planting 10,000 trees with him virtually for my father, who left about 9 years ago. So our goal is to plant 1 billion trees in this next decade with the help of low orbital satellites, courtesy of the European Space Agency and NASA, to map everything from space, real time, every 5 days, and all the ecosystems we restore. So we look forward to joining forces with every one of you who's interested to restore ecosystem on a large scale, from the eastern Himalayan foothills, where the glaciers are melting, all the way to the Indian Ocean and the sea, from source to sea. So I'm a Himalayan man from northeast India, where we have all these sacred forests and living root bridges. Our indigenous people still maintain these bridges till now. We still grow them, and we wait for 7 generations to walk on them. We still maintain our sacred forests. We've still got a lot more to do to protect other indigenous peoples around the world that are under threat right now. So having said that, thank you so much again, ladies and gentlemen, and please stay tuned to be approached by the team from Earth 300 to engage and get to know you better on the projects, and so we can cross-pollinate all the things we're doing collaboratively to have bigger impact. Thank you so much for your time. This is the end of our first episode, and looking forward to engaging on the ground. Thank you.